Yay. Wow. I go live. There's already 51 of you. Happy Friday. We live in a really messed up time. So I'm going to just do a cheers because we made it to Friday. Also, it's important to mark the days when we are in an endless, I don't even know what. And it's okay if you had some wine in your coffee, on your coffee cup. I didn't, but I sort of wish I did. Okay. So I'm Claire. I'm Claire Wasserman. I am the founder of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform that helps women level up at work and also level up their bank accounts. We do that through webinars. We have a video library, a conference. And I think what's most special is we have this Slack group. And our Slack group has over 75,000 women in it all over the world, crowdsourcing career advice. So I appreciate you all being here to listen to me, but I'm sort of the least special person as part of the Ladies Get Paid network. And I highly, highly encourage you to go to ladiesgetpaid.com. It's free. We will add you to Slack. Last thing I will say before I get into the advice that I know you're all here for. My book, it just came out on Tuesday. Ladies Get Paid, the ultimate guide to breaking barriers, owning your worth, and taking command of your career. Highly encourage it. And I know I'm biased, but I think it's really damn good. And it's also not just my mother who told me that. All right, everybody. So today's office hours, and yes, we are doing these every Friday. Today's about getting a promotion. This is a subject that I like to talk about all the time, but I think it is even more important now that we are stuck in our homes and it's harder to show our value. Or at least it feels harder to show our value and to build relationships since we're not able to just sort of swing by anybody's office. The other reason I'm kind of obsessed with this topic is we do not have enough women in leadership. We just don't. Less than 22% of women make it past middle management. So we owe the world for us to get above middle management. I do want to say for a minute, the reason we're not getting into leadership, it's not because we have a lack of confidence. This is not our fault, right? There's larger systemic issues at play here, which that is a whole other YouTube video, one that I will probably get massively trolled for. Speaking of trolls, for folks who came to last Friday's, you probably saw that there was a chat, and I love hearing from you. I think that's something that's really special about what we do. It's important to me. We didn't do a chat this time. I got massively swarmed by trolls. Horrible, really bad experience. It made me maybe not want to do this ever again. But then I realized, well, then these guys won. They won. So for now, we're going to keep the chat off. That being said, please go to Instagram. That's a great place to go. I'm Claire Gets Paid. You can DM me if you have questions. Also, if you are in our Slack group, let's start talking there. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see what you're saying. But the good news is you all submitted questions beforehand. We had almost 300 RSVPs to this office hours. And so what I did is I went through all of the questions, of which there were hundreds, and I organized them by different, it's all about positioning yourself for promotion, but there's kind of different sub-themes within that. So maybe just an overview of what those sub-themes are and how we're going to kind of flow through today's hour. And then I'm going to get into those individual questions. So in general, we're talking about concerns here, general concerns, right? So I don't want to brag. Do I deserve the promotion even? It's COVID, right? And we're in remote times. I'm not sure if this is rude if I asked for a promotion. And then also, of course, do I get a raise with that promotion, right? So the financial piece, how does that fit in? And so, here's what I think. If you're going to advocate for yourself, you have to first deeply believe that you are worthy of advocacy. So I'm going to get into that first. Then after that, we're going to lay the groundwork for promotion. Yes, of course, we will talk about the time where you're actually articulating your accomplishments to get the promotion, right? During that annual review or whenever you have that meeting. But if you wait until that time in order to advocate for yourself, I'm sorry, you waited too long. So what do you need to be doing all throughout the year to make sure that you are being recognized so that you can get rewarded later? And that also means internal networking. We talk a lot about finding mentors. That's great. Research shows that women actually have an overabundance of mentors, and they don't actually help you necessarily get to where you want to go. So I'm going to be talking about, well, who are these other people that we should be connecting with? And also thinking strategically. So it's not just I want to get to the next level, but what does next level look like for me? So maybe being a little bit more strategic in our careers as a whole and not just at your current company. And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts. This is why you're really here, I think, is making the ask and also with the raise, right? How do you make that part of the conversation? And also, if you start doing the work of the next level, can you ask for more money? Like, at what point do you make sure you're being compensated for this extra work that you might be doing, right? And then that's that. So thank you again for everybody being here. Kind of sounded like I was done with this. I'm not done. We're just getting started. But I do want to acknowledge that you're spending time with me, and time is money, and I'm just so appreciative. And by the way, getting a promotion, you're already almost there. You are, because you showed up today, really. So be proud of yourself for that. All right, let's begin with the first question. How do I shine to get a promotion? And also, what is your advice to show your employer that you have value being a newer employee? Okay. All right. So this gets in a little bit to the how do you lay the groundwork part of this. It begins by communication with your manager. And by the way, I mean, this is perfect if you've just joined the company. This is exactly when you should be having level set conversations about their expectations. That's okay if you've worked there for a while. I still want you to have this conversation. It's explicit to making sure that you're on the same page. And it's not, I don't know what I'm doing, I want to talk to you. It's really just about asking them, how do you define success? Okay, I want to make sure I am doing the best work possible here. I want to have an understanding of how this company operates, right? Because the case that you make for your promotion, it's about your place in the larger ecosystem of work. You also have to know how you're bringing money into the company. And unless you're in sales or something that's, very client facing, it can be a little bit difficult to figure out how you're contributing to the bottom line. If you're not able to figure that out, if you're not able to articulate that, your case is so much weaker. So sometimes that means you need to do a little bit of reconnaissance. So coming out and asking your boss, how does this company make money, and how is how am I contributing to that? Again, I want to know so I can be a leader here. It's asking them, how do they measure success? Right? How do you make their job easier? It's also about communication, really. So especially now, quite frankly, how do you like to communicate? What's your bandwidth? How much frequency? Don't guess. That's the thing. I think we freak ourselves out oftentimes because we don't have enough information and we are making assumptions about what the other person is thinking or what the other person needs from us. We think we're mind readers, and then we start to self-doubt. And oftentimes I just think, what are the questions I can ask to get the information that I need, rather than how can I overperform? How can I overperform? Right? And that oftentimes comes from, a sense of imposter. I talk about this pretty much in every office hour I give, just because it really can hold us back. Essentially, it's this belief that you are not as good or as smart or as competent as you may have presented yourself to be. And this fear that you will be found out. I will give an office hour that is specific to imposter syndrome. I just want to say, let's shift the focus from what will they think or being driven by the fear of judgment, and really look at this as, what is the value that I'm providing? Why am I doing this? Am I making progress, right? What am I learning? What's the kind of growth I've had? Because when you talk about your accomplishments, you're also going to frame it as, look how far I've come. Okay. How do you shine to get a promotion, right? So you have an understanding from your boss. What do they need to see from you? You know your place in the company, right, and how you're contributing. Then I want you to talk about your wins every single week. Yes, you do, and you're not bragging. You know why you're not bragging? Because the success of your boss is contingent on your success, right? They have to make the case for their raise and their promotion, and it is about the performance of the team. So when you talk about the work that you've done and the successes you've had, you're basically reassuring them. So you're not bragging. Okay. And also, gut check, would a mediocre white man feel like he's bragging? No, he would not. So there you go. And when you talk about your wins every week, it doesn't just have to be, here's something I did and it was great, right? If that feels kind of awkward, I want you to tie it to something maybe bigger. So I did this thing. I got this great feedback. I thought it was interesting that fill in the blank, or I have a question, off of this, or an idea, or, here's some more reading I did about the industry. Like, look at this as a way to start a larger conversation, rather than just kind of dropping, here's my accomplishment. That being said, absolutely drop your accomplishment. Put it in writing, by the way. Even if you talk about it on Zoom or whatever, getting a paper trail of the work that you're doing, huge. What's also huge is making sure that you know their priorities and you're hitting them. Because again, that's what they're looking for, not just this person is doing so much amazing work. It's okay, they've specifically hit these targets that I've put. Identifying our strengths during the annual job evaluation and review. I think we're too close to ourselves often. So I guess my question to you would be, who can give you feedback? Somebody you work with for sure, maybe a former boss. Talk to them about sort of your human qualities. So it's not always, what you did, but also kind of how you did it. Things like my enthusiasm, right? Detail oriented, empathy, right? This is how you affect your team. And the team contributes to the larger bottom line. And so then that becomes your challenge. How can you talk about who you are and relate it to the bottom line? Example, I know that I'm a really enthusiastic, positive person. I cheerlead my team. And in doing that, I've seen the team become more motivated. They've worked harder. They've worked more efficiently. They're really productive. We've saved time. Time is money. See? So you have to connect the dots for them and don't assume that they know this. They're way too busy. So again, they'll appreciate that you're spelling it out. And part of that means you have to track this stuff. Because again, when it's time to make the case and you're all of a sudden trying to remember all the great things you did, probably too late. If you are really hard on yourself, which as perfectionists, many of us are, you may think to yourself, well, this is just my job description. Like, this is not a win. It is a win. Here's how you're going to figure out if it was a win or not. I would go find the original job description when you were hired. Then I want you to write a new one that really reflects what you did. A new one that, if you were going to replace yourself, like, what does this person need to know? You're going to compare the two. You're going to see, I'm sure, things changed. You probably took on the role of multiple people. Maybe your role kind of morphed. This is why you never base your next salary on what you used to make. You may have gone so leaps and bounds beyond who you may feel like a different person, right? You've had so many experiences that have changed who you are and your understanding of yourself in the industry. So really look at that kind of scope change, that growth, as a place where you can find the most compelling wins that you can talk about. And also to understand, what your strengths are as like a human being on a team. The other thing I would think about really is the values of the company culture. Can you show them how you've reflected that? Can you show them how you've contributed to that? Have you created an employee resource group? I mean, let's talk a little bit about things you might have done that's, outside of the kind of confines of that job role. Women, ladies, everybody, if you have done things like create an employee resource group or participate in one or brought in a speaker, there's probably, I was going to say put it in the chat, but we're not doing a chat today. If you've done anything that helps inclusivity. Oh, we are doing a chat. Fabulous. Okay, we're going to do a chat until the trolls come, and then we're going to turn this off. So you can put in your questions or thoughts if things resonate with you, things that you have found helpful in positioning yourself for promotion and then articulating why you deserve that promotion. If you have done anything to contribute to the company culture at large, you need to talk about that. And here's why you're going to talk about it. That is actually making the company money. You're thinking to yourself, all right, well, I don't know how this is making the company money. In fact, I've actually asked for budget to do what I've asked for. Okay, here's how you're making the company money when you contribute to the company culture. They're going to use this to attract candidates. They're going to use this to retain employees. Okay, very expensive for them to lose their staff. Very expensive for them to hire. They might need to now get a headhunter. They have to pay a percentage of the salary to the headhunter. I mean, really, that could be a lot of money. So definitely bring up how you've contributed to the company culture, maybe beyond your role. I'm going to tell you a really quick story about the book. By the way, this book, I follow the lives of 9 real women. Each of them is going through a different professional challenge. And as I tell their story, I give advice. So there's a woman in this book named Sarah. She worked for a very large car sharing, card ride. I'm not going to say who it is, but you guys know the company. Anyway, she creates a parental ERG there. She improves the paid family leave policy. And she realizes, okay, this is amazing, but I'm not being compensated for it. And I'm also doing extra work. Do I bring this up? And she did. She talked about it in her annual review, and not just what she did, but also tying it to the bottom line. She really quantified it, which you all have to do, right? How many women came to the event, et cetera, et cetera. And then not only did she say, I think this deserves a raise, she also asked if this could be part of what she did moving forward as a percentage of her job, and if she would continue to be rewarded. So she said, here, I'd like 10% of my new role here to be dedicated to running this parental employee resource group. And obviously that meant she needed to shift some priorities around. She worked with her manager to do that. She got the manager on board. And the answer was yes. I mean, now I've sort of given away the end of her chapter, but she made sure that she was getting rewarded, okay? This is why in my title, I say take command of your career. Everybody's too busy, okay? They're always thinking about themselves. So it has to be up to you to say what you've done, how you're excellent, and what you want. Are you going to use the word deserve? I probably wouldn't use that word, okay? But you can say, I believe my contribution is commensurate with my ask. When is the right time to ask for a promotion? Of course, there isn't a specific time, but what circumstances should be in place to yield the greatest chance of success? Is this a question that you all have had? Got submitted actually a few times. Two things. One, when you have had a win, you have done something that got great feedback. By the way, anytime somebody emails you a compliment, screenshot it, put it into what I call a brag book file on your desktop. Somebody else said to me that she calls it a smile file. I love alliterations. I love when things rhyme. Call it whatever you want. She's keeping track of this stuff because it's not just take my word for it, but client Bob had this great specific feedback on what I did. Okay. When that feedback happens, when you have that win, go in, make a meeting, and you say, I want to talk about my growth here. I believe in the company. I believe in myself. What are opportunities for leadership here? Right. So that's not you necessarily explicitly saying, I want a promotion and a raise. Although if that's where you're at in your relationship with your manager, again, all my advice, it needs to be filtered through your situation, your comfort zone. Although I'm going to ask you to push a little bit outside your comfort zone. You talk to them when you've had a win. I also want you to find out when are the budgets being decided? Again, if you wait to ask for the raise when budgets are decided, you're probably going to get a no. How are you going to figure out when the budgets are decided? Do a little bit of sleuth work. Ask around. So people you're going to ask around to, I call them guides. They're folks who are tapped in. They've been at the company for a long time. HR, executive assistants, people who do IT, right? Because they have to fix everybody's computer. This is also going to help you get a sense of politics, right? Like dynamics in between people, how to approach conversations. If there's somebody who's worked with your manager before, ask them how to handle it. That can include somebody who no longer works at the company. You can reach out. And again, it's not about I'm asking around because I have some sort of nefarious ask. It's I'm asking around because I want to do an excellent job here. And part of that means I need to understand how this company operates. I'm a little bit of a broken record there, but I'm trying to show you that this does not need to be a scary conversation. How can women be more confident in asking for a promotion when men with less skills appear to get the promotion? This is not in your head, my friends. This is the sad thing. This is why I started Ladies Get Paid. This is why I wrote this book. Men are more likely to be promoted based on their potential, whereas women, and especially women of color, we need to prove ourselves over and over again. And it's not just that. Part of the issue, I think, is what's called the double bind. How many of you have heard of the double bind? Okay, so the double bind, let me define it. It is effectively when you act outside of kind of the social norm, right? How a woman is realized by men and women, meaning you come in and you are assertive. They now perceive you as aggressive, right? Or the flip side of the double bind, which is you are very nice, okay? You were a nice, warm, welcoming person. Oh, wait, are you going to be looked at as leadership material? Or you really try hard and now you're looked at as bossy or bitchy. Probably you're nodding your head. I can't see you. I wish I could. I'm going to nod my head. Is there a way to combat this stuff? Yes, there is. It's exhausting, but this is how you're going to do it. Alex Carter, she is a negotiation coach. She works at, she's a law professor at Columbia. She wrote a great book. She has this phrase that she calls we. Okay. I want this, or I believe in this, and here's how we all will gain from it. It's like she's inserting, she's asserting herself, but she's also demonstrating that this is part of a larger collective. She is working towards the improvement of the company as a whole. It's not just about her. She's not being greedy. You're going to be doing these asks with empathy, especially now. You're going to say, I know times are weird, but I owe it to myself and I owe it to all women and these horrible statistics to ask for this raise or to ask for this promotion. So it's kind of like you're calling out the elephant in the room. You can always ask, if you were in my position, what would you do? Kind of turns it around. More confident. Do it on behalf of all of us. Seriously, just, imagine if you've got kids or a daughter or a future daughter, right? You're doing this to show her that she can do it. And practice, always practice. And again, remind yourself, they want to see you succeed. That being said, if you are in a toxic work environment where all the people around you are getting promoted and you just aren't, and you're just hitting a wall, look for other jobs. Have your savings together. That's why a lot of this conversation, honestly, it comes from a place of privilege, because the people who have options are the people who can stand strong. And if you have to stay at that job financially and you have no other choice, then my question to you is, how do you protect yourself? How do you protect your energy if you're in a place that doesn't feel good? How do you toe the line between arrogant bragging and highlighting your accomplishments to prove your value? I feel like I kind of answered this already. Again, if you are concerned that you're coming across as arrogant, I'm going to imagine you're not actually coming across that way. It's the people who are not, in tune with themselves. They have no idea how they're coming across. Those are the folks who are going to seem arrogant. So honestly, I think you're fine. How should I set up myself for promotion in this age of COVID? We already all had to forego our performance reviews in 2020. I think that was a huge mistake on the company's part. I'm in an industry pretty impacted negatively by the pandemic. Here's the thing, promotions, they're about your next job. They're also about your current job and leveling up and of course, getting the raise. Hopefully that comes with the promotion. But at this point, get the promotion so that you can leverage it for your next job. There has to be some movement. And whether that's adding, shifting kind of your responsibilities, come with your ask, right? Say, I've seen it, that there's a need I can fill. There's an opportunity here. Here's how I would do it. Come with a PowerPoint. Like, don't rely on them to figure out what it is that you can do. That means you're leveling up. Maybe you're not going to get the pay bump. You're going to ask for things that don't cost them much money, but bring you value. This is called full compensation. I talk about it in the book a lot. These are things like pay time off, right? Or more vacation days, career development, get them to pay for you to go to a conference. Have the specific ask though, guys, like go in and say, this is the conference I want to attend. Here's how it's a benefit to you, skills I'm going to learn, networking I'm going to do that'll bring in clients, etc. What else? When you finally travel again, can they pay for your commute, right? The gas money, cell phone bill. You're working from home. So what are all the things that you have to pay for now that is actually work related? If you are thinking right now, Claire, if they can't pay me more, then how would they be able to afford these other things? Oftentimes they're separate budgets. Guys, they've got the salary budget, and then they have a budget that's for career development. There's women in the Ladies Get Paid community who told me that a month ago, she was not able to raise her base salary. This was for a new job. She wasn't able to raise her base salary, but she was actually able to negotiate a signing bonus. And that got her up to the overall annual salary that she was actually looking for. So come with your ask and see if you can position it as a benefit to them. Then also ask, when is the next time we can revisit it? And whatever the time is, I want you to then cut that time in half, send them a calendar invite, and say, I just want to check in and make sure we're still on the same page. Right. I've currently been working for a company for 2.5 years, and I've been feeling a bit eager to try new things for work. How would you approach thinking about the trade-off for staying at a company longer, i.e. to get a promotion to manager and have different responsibilities, versus switching jobs to advance or change your career? I'm going to have some coffee. Here's what I understand about this question. Okay, so you're thinking maybe more strategically about your whole career here, and you have put in the work at this company. They know you, right? Relationships have been built. You have credibility. If you stay at this company, it sounds like you're going to get to the next level, right? You're going to get the title of a manager. We're going to have different responsibilities. All this sounds great. But then your alternative here you're asking is switch jobs to advance or change your career. I'm going to start with changing your career. Are you asking that because you actually want to do that? Right? Do you want to pivot? And when you say change your career, sort of how big of a change are we talking about? Is this pivoting to an entirely new industry? Are you, the title, the function of what you do? I can talk about that maybe in another. Actually, in the last office hours that we did last week, it's all about finding a dream job. And I do talk about making career pivots, although I certainly can dedicate an office hours just to that. So I'm going to, just challenge the person who asked this, how seriously they want to take changing their career. That is a personal decision. When you talk about switching jobs to advance, well, it sounds like you're going to advance at your current job. So then it's, all right, cost benefit here. What does advancement look like if you were to go to a new job? Are you going to have a way bigger title or pay bump to do that? Are you going to be learning new skills or getting exposure in a new world that's now going to make you even more valuable for kind of the next job? I love pros and cons lists. I also like to take the next step of, again, cost benefit. What am I giving up in order to get this? Is this actually worth it? Then let's talk about maybe, staying at the company longer to get a promotion and have different responsibilities. Does this interest you, right? Like, if you look at the career trajectory of your boss and your boss's boss, do you want to be like them? I have had so many women think that they wanted to grow at their company or even to continue in their industry. And then they looked at who was above them and they thought, I actually don't want to do that. They either didn't want to do it because they didn't like what they were going to have to do, or they, quite frankly, didn't like how many hours they were going to have to do it, right? They saw that the lifestyle of their boss or their boss's boss just really wasn't for them. It's a personal choice. Last night, I had the first event for my book tour. And I'm going to share with you what my special guest said, because I think, she had a fantastic approach to the success of her career as a whole. Our guest was Anjali Sood. So she's the CEO of Vimeo, massive company. I think they have like 700 employees. They're about to go public. She's a woman of color. She's 37 and she got the job, the CEO position 4 years ago. I mean, if you want to feel totally unaccomplished, look at Anjali's resume. And she was actually able to rise up within the organization. So she used to do marketing and general manager, and then she got promoted within. Something that she did in her career, and she worked at Amazon and a couple of other places. She jumped around a little bit because she found, by the way, that changing jobs, that was the best way for her to get the promotion that she wanted. And she's not alone. Research has shown that actually women, the best way for them to get a pay bump and a title bump is to change jobs, because often within a company, the men are getting promoted based on potential, or the people in leadership who are often men, they're the ones mentoring and sponsoring younger guys, right? So there's a pipeline issue. And actually, the latest Lean In McKinsey report calls it the broken rung. It's very depressing. We can talk about it in other office hours. So anyway, she jumped from companies to companies, and here's how she decided or determined, is this a company that she wanted to even go to? She looked at how long people stayed at the company, what their career trajectory had been, who was getting promoted, how long was it taking to get promoted. She already knew she wanted to be CEO. Like, since she was little, she said she wanted to be the boss, okay? She wanted to work for a business. She did not want to start her own company. She looked at Vimeo and she saw that people were getting promoted quickly, and they were getting promoted when they were young. So then she thought, okay, this is an environment that I can thrive in, right? Versus maybe another company, it takes somebody a long time, or they're promoting, a lot of older people, right? So it just depends on your goals. They don't have to be that specific, right? You don't have to necessarily have a 5-year plan, but generally, how do you approach growth? And is there evidence that you can find of how the company does that with their employees? When you interview, you also should ask, what does growth look like here? Do you support career development? Things like that. How do I handle annual reviews when I am on my 4th manager in 12 months and the one who I worked with the longest is no longer at the company? Okay, that is a red flag, real red flag. That many managers, what is going on? I would like to ask this person, should they be looking for another job? We should all be networking all the time anyway, guys. So again, when it's time to find a new job, if that's when you begin to network, too late. Okay, so depending on your relationship with your previous managers, which it sounds like I think you may have had a good one, can you seek their advice? Can you seek their counsel on how to handle this? Can you talk to other people at the company? Are you the only one who's had to change managers multiple times? What's the issue with having so many managers? Okay, the issue is that they don't know you. They don't necessarily know your work. This is where the level set conversation happens. I know there's a woman in our community who literally created an entire spreadsheet, an entire PowerPoint detailing out all of the work that she's done, people she's worked with, right? The outcome, the impact, the testimonials, all of that, okay? It's going to help them understand who you are. So say, I'd like to make this presentation to you. I know it might be a little bit corny, but I want you to have a really good sense of who I am, but also what I'm capable of, right? Leverage my strengths. So let me show you what they are. Also, this person might be feeling really insecure too. Imagine if you were the fourth manager joining within 12 months. They're probably very nervous and might be feeling like they're drowning, especially if this is a company culture that's not particularly supportive. Ask them about their concerns, right? Look at them like a collaborator too. How can I help you, right? What are you working on? Get to know them. I'm stuck. I've been at the same level of my career for the past couple years. I've tried to move companies a few times and I've been promised promotions within a couple of years, but that never happens and I leave. Then I start the process all over again. Listen, I never tell people to just quit their jobs unless it's toxic. But in this case, I actually wonder if it's you and not the company. Here's what I mean. I know that sounded a little bit harsh, so let me explain. Are you doing the right work for who you are? Are you in the right industry? Is your job, are you using your skills to the best of your ability? Are your strengths really being leveraged, right? So it's not just, I happen to be a good networker, but is that a function of your job, basically, right? The who you are, that also needs to be part of what you do. Because that's the thing, if you're not getting jobs you want, or you're not getting promoted, et cetera, I would reflect on you and if this is really actually what you want to do. That's part of it. It also is part of making sure you're asking the right questions when you interview at your next jobs, right? I said that before, of asking them explicitly to tell you how one grows at the company. Can they give an example of people they've promoted within? Ask them questions about what their values are and how they live their values, right? So again, I just want to make sure when you go into a new company that you're asking the right questions so that you aren't stepping into another situation where you're just hitting a wall. And then promise promotions every couple of years and never happens. Do you ask why? Get as much information as possible from them so you know what to do. And also if this means that are you advocating for yourself enough? A lot of the things I'm saying, I think I've given the advice already, but beyond the advice I've already given, I guess my response to this question is about self-reflection and if this is the right industry and role for you. I've struggled again and again in my career with supervisors who are really pleased with my work, but don't seem able to see me in another role with more responsibility. I've mostly advanced by deciding it's time to promote myself and then looking for a position at another company. How do I break out of this kind of limiting view? So this is kind of a similar question to the one before, and also speaks to that larger statistic, the research I've done that does show that women are able to more easily get promotions and raises when they jump companies, which is, by the way, I would try to stay at the company for at least a year unless it is a horrible situation. And you can explain that on your resume. Had to drink that coffee there. Okay. So what do you do when you know that you're working for folks who are pleased with your work, but they don't really see you in another role or responsibility? There's a phrase that I've heard from somebody called the baby bear syndrome. Anybody heard of that? Okay, the baby bear syndrome is happens to people when they join a company and they're in a more like admin supportive role. So they're somebody's assistant, for example, or really entry level, but they really stretch, right? Again, remember when I said, look at your original job description, then write up a new one and see how much you've changed. But they're always looked at the way that they were when they joined. That's the baby bear syndrome. I don't know if this woman came up with it on her own or if it's an actual thing. Now I know what I'm Googling after. It is hard to move beyond that perception. That is when you have to be explicit about what you want. My biggest recommendation, look at the people who are above you or in departments you're curious about, talk to them and ask them, A, how did they get to where they're going, where they are? And B, what does it take for them to be successful in their role? Particularly, what are their challenges? What do they wish they knew when they started that role? Then you work backwards. You go to your boss, whoever you need to pitch, and you say, I did a lot of research about what it would take to be successful in this next role. I believe I have what that takes. And then you show examples. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact experience, but it can show that you are a fast learner. You are resourceful, creative, resilient. All of these qualities will set you up for success. But it's not this abstract ask. I want to get to the next level. Again, that's okay if you have that kind of relationship. But if you're hitting a wall where they're just not seeing you, then show them that you can be in that role. And the only way to do that is to demonstrate to them that you have a total command of what that role is. Also come up with a plan of, all right, if you can't do this now, but we can maybe do this in 6 months, how do I show you along the way? Like every month, I'm going to send you a list of my accomplishments. I'm going to do like stretch assignments. There's this thing called glamour work. These are things, and again, I hate to like keep harping on the difference between genders, but ladies get paid to have to do it. Oftentimes men are given the glam work. This is work that gets them visibility to clients or to people of influence at the company, right? Gives them kind of meat that they can talk about in the promotion, right? Maybe they're more directly related to bringing in money. Where women, and of course, particularly women of color, they're doing more supportive admin, behind the scenes work. And so it's not sexy. So there feels like there's less to talk about, or they're not getting FaceTime with important people who could help them in their career. Make sure you are getting that work. Ask for it. Find opportunities. If there are none, create them. Let me tell you a super quick story about how I created an opportunity for myself that was really kind of game changing. Oh, I'm so glad to see so many people here. Thanks, guys. I feel so honored that you're part of our office hours this week. At a previous job of mine, I saw there was an opportunity to really help the company, and it was something I was interested in, and I wanted it on my resume. Okay, so the opportunity was, I thought the company I worked for could tell a really, really good story about their past. It was a 100-year-old nonprofit. And I thought the story that we could tell would be finding really influential people who had been part of the nonprofit community and ask them to talk about legacy, their legacy, the legacy they hope they leave. What does legacy mean, right? Because that was what was special about the organization I worked for. It was an institution. Now, I wanted to do filmed interviews. That's expensive. And it was a nonprofit. So first, what I did is I thought about who at the company needed to participate in this, right? We had a video team. I had to get them on board, first of all, because I also worked backwards from what are all the reasons? Why is this boss going to tell me no? There are so many reasons they will tell me no. First reason could be, well, the video team doesn't have time. So I went to the video team and I said, here's my idea. And before I asked them, do you have time? I asked them, how can you make this idea better? I got them to buy in. I got them to be really excited about this project. I got them to feel like it was their idea, right? And then I asked them, what's on your plate now? What's on your plate in the next couple of months? Where do you see this fitting in? How would you readjust priorities? I also asked, how much money will this take to do this, both in terms of your time and if external crews need to be hired, etc. Then I asked for a meeting with my boss. I did not spring it on him. I didn't say, hey, are you free this afternoon? I told him, I want to pitch you on an idea. Do you have an hour? Carved out an hour. And I went in there and I pitched my ass off. But I also knew he still probably would say no. I knew he would say, oh, I'm a little worried about the budget. And he would sort of like push me off. So I had what I call a beta ask. Okay, so for anybody who is in tech or has had a kind of startup, you have an MVP, right? The minimal viable product, or you're beta testing, right? This is something that can demonstrate that you have success, you have traction, but it's not necessarily the actual thing that you end up creating. It's like a scaled down version. I had that all ready to go. So my scaled down version was, how about I do a couple of interviews, but I'm doing it on my phone. I'm going to put this on our social. And I'm going to get press for it, because I needed to also demonstrate to him that that there was a measurement of success, because we had a board. He was going to have to answer to them and say to them, here's how we're measuring success. And he said, okay, Claire. I don't think I got any budget. Maybe I did a little bit. Hit it out of the park. I got the press I wanted. We got a lot of views. The people I interviewed, they were like, this is a great idea. So I got my little testimonials. And then I got official budget, and then I left the company. Whole other story. Okay. So I think that is a great example of if you are not being given the opportunities, you create them, and you create them by seeing a need at the company. And it could be a need that helps the company make more. It could be a need within your team or within the company culture, and you make your case. Now, does it mean you're asking for money for yourself? I don't know. This is where it's not one size fits all advice, guys. You have to really filter this through your company, how well the company's doing. If you have a good relationship with your boss, you can say, what do you think about a pay increase to go with what I'm asking? Honestly, if you were in my scenario, situation, what would you do? Chances are they're going to want to see you do the work first before you get the raise. It's an ongoing conversation, and I don't really have, there's not, again, like a hard and fast rule here. Okay. If your employer says that right now they are not doing any promotions because of COVID, but you've earned one due to your performance, how would you guide that conversation? How do you get the promotion now? Do you get the promotion now or when things return to normal? I feel like I may have answered that question already because, again, just come with like the specific ask that you have, and a title bump, title change, or that full compensation, or the career development. Like there has to be something that they give you. There just does. And if you can get another offer and you say, I really want to stay here, what can you do? That does give you more leverage. Are there any do strategies change when you're seeking a promotion in a different department that is adjacent to your own? I'm going to talk about networking internally for a little bit, because this, and understanding how other departments operate, that also means you need to talk to the people who are in that department. This is also advice I have in general for any kind of promotion or raise that you want to get at the company. You need to get buy-in from people above you, beyond your boss. I want you to think about who at the company is doing something that is very interesting to you. Who is a person at the company who has influence? Gatekeeper. Honestly, could be the CEO. Think high. Think really high. You can also think about who, is right above you and you want to get into their position. So yeah, you want to talk to them too. You can send them a cold email, or I guess you can send them a warm email, but you could do it. Outreach can be cold, right? You're going to send them an email, and maybe if you need to talk to their executive assistant first to get tips on how to approach them, fine. Do a shit ton of research about them. Tons of research. I want you to find things that you have in common. I want to find things that are compelling, that you really like, you're interested in learning more. When you email them, make it extremely personal. Introduce yourself, of course, and maybe some of your ambition. But say, I read this thing about you. I read this interview you did. You spoke at this conference. You pivoted your career. Like, doesn't need to be a whole list, but it could be, something that shows them that this is not this like generic email, right? Then I want you to ask a specific question. And honestly, it could be more than one. You could have 3 bullet points and say, I would love, love, love to take 20 minutes of your time. I know you're busy, so if that doesn't work for you, maybe just an email exchange. Right? And it's never, can I pick your brain? Because what does that mean? I always say, well, my brain's kind of big. The only reason they will say no to you is because they do not have time. Again, it is in their interest for the company to do well. Also, they're usually so far removed from how the company is actually operating, right? They're doing a bird's eye view strategic decisions that they want to know what's happening more on the ground level. So you go to them, it's personal, you have a specific ask, you demonstrate that you respect their time. If you don't hear back from them, you do what is called polite persistence. You follow up, and you're going to follow up 2 times with a week in between. You're not going to re-forward your email, you're going to copy and paste, and you're going to put the ask back on the top, and you're going to say, I understand you're probably inundated, wanted to float this to the top of your inbox. That is doing them a favor because it probably got lost. If you don't hear back, do not take it personally. At the very least, what you've done is demonstrate that you're self-motivated. This has helped me in my career. And this advice I'm giving, guys, this is great for external networking too, not just within your company. Ask them, what is your advice for moving up at this company? What should I do? What have you done? What have you learned in your career? Then you're going to show them what you have done to get there, right? That you're not just showing up and saying, well, you should help me. This is work that I've done. Then you ask how you can support them. You always, always ask that. And then you stay in touch, because a relationship is not built by having a 20-minute conversation, okay? Relationship is built over time and consistency. Somebody gave me fantastic advice the other day that I loved, that I'm going to take now, but I'm going to give her credit. Her name's Ashley Lamar. So kudos to you, Ashley Lamar. She sets up a Google alert for these people she networks with. And whenever she gets an update about their life, she emails them. So it sounds maybe like a little creepy on the back end, but when she emails them, it shows them that she's thinking of them. Same thing. If you come across articles, things that you think they'd find interesting or helpful, go email them. If you come across conferences that you think they should be a speaker for, ask them if you can nominate them. Always tell them something that you've done, though. It's not just about them. It's P.S. I had this win at work. Or P.S. here's something you did or said that inspired me, and here's how it helped me. All my relationships, I'm going to say, I have never, ever gotten a job because I applied online. Every job that I've gotten came through a relationship. And this is how I treated the relationship. Okay. Let's see. How do you handle the feedback to, quote, stop associating success with title and pay and instead focus on the work and efforts you achieve? I and peers have tried to begin a conversation about how to work towards promotion, and this seems to be our company's way to, quote, shut it down. Okay. Again, this is why I always say, getting negotiating at the job, whether it's standing up for something you want, like a title change or a pay bump, it is a luxury, because it kind of sounds like you're in a situation that you'll never be able to get out of. You'll never be able to grow, right? So how do you find other options? So first thing, I want to acknowledge something you've done really well, which is you've talked to other people and you've seen that this isn't just you. I think too oftentimes we internalize. If we're not getting what we want, if we're not getting recognized, we assume that it's us, that we didn't do good enough work. So I'm glad you recognize this is the company's problem. Although unfortunately, it's now become your problem. Okay, well, all right. I'm going to acknowledge, all right, on their end, focus on the work and efforts you achieve. Fair enough. But the reason to focus on the work and efforts you achieve is so you can use it to go ahead and move up. So this is a very silly thing for them to say. If you can have, again, be specific about the things that you want, right? And this is where you might have to say, why is that? Like, why do we not have the growth here? This is a hard conversation to have. You may need to just have the hard conversation. Let us see. How much should I ask for a salary? Let's talk about salary, actually, in the last couple of minutes here. How much should I ask for a salary increase when getting promoted to a manager role? I've been with my company for 4.5 years, and I took over my team this month. We didn't talk about changes in my title and compensation until today. Do I get to keep my seniority in the new title, even though I'm being promoted to a brand new role? Girl, you get to ask for whatever the hell you want. And whatever they say back, if it's a no, that to me is a not yet. You need more information and you need to get something, okay? Market research. So if you were applying for a new job and the new job had a manager title, right? And you didn't have that before, absolutely there's a pay increase. Do your market research, whether it's at the company or other companies. They have to be similar. So it has to be similar size of the company. If you have unique skills, the location of the company, right? So your salary is not just about you, but it does have to be part of a larger context. Ask for that salary. Remember in the beginning, I said the ask you have doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you were originally paid, depending on how much you've done and the experiences that you've had. Tied to the market research, that is what you're discussing. You're also going to mention the fact that you've been there for 4.5 years. You carry with you what's called institutional knowledge. That is a value. How is that a value? You can help other people who are new to the company understand the ins and outs. You're more efficient in your work, etc. That is a value. Next question. Okay. My team has gone through a lot of organizational shifts. Our whole company has shifted multiple leadership in the last 1.5 years, and we always push back that there's no budget for a raise. How do I demand a raise when I'm doing more work and still being paid the same? Can you figure out how well the company is doing, by the way? Is it possible? This is where you might want to, who are the people who are bringing in the money there? Let's say you're at a nonprofit. Well, the person bringing in the money has the role that's called development. Can you talk to them about how they're doing? Um, so I would love to know if this is bullshit of what they're saying or if it's real. Okay. If it's real, full compensation, my friend, the things you ask for that bring you value but don't cost them any money or cost them very little. And then this is when you look for other jobs. Couple minutes left. And by the way, guys, if you are free at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 11, 12, 1, 2 p.m. Eastern time, I'm about to hop on the Ladies Get Paid Instagram. I'm doing an Instagram live with Cindy Ramirez Fulton, and she is the CEO of Chill House, which is, a self-care empire. She also owns restaurants in New York City, and she just had a baby during COVID. Lots to talk about there. So I encourage you in the next 8 minutes, come hop over to Instagram at Ladies Get Paid. This is an interesting question that I don't quite know how to answer, but I want to throw it out there because I've never heard this question before. What precautions or different strategies should I use when I know my manager is already intimidated by me? I want to be delicate. Otherwise, this will not be received well. Ooh, there's a lot to unpack there. I wonder if it's a man who's intimidated by you. Do you know for sure? Again, we oftentimes think, we know what other people are thinking about us, and that can be very dangerous. One way to maybe figure this stuff out is to really break down examples of when you feel like they've been intimidated by you. Then perhaps try to deal with that one-on-one, right? Like, is this in a presentation or, is it in meetings, or like, how has this behavior been demonstrated? And then what can you do each of those events? And maybe it means, you need to get to know your manager better, because trust needs to be developed, where you ask them about their career goals. How did they get here? How can you support them? If they get to know you better, right, that's going to show them who you are and that, no, you are not an intimidating person. I'm going to end with this question, even though it's a little bit different from getting a promotion, but it's absolutely something that you all should be aware of if you are trying to get a promotion. I'm very far from being considered an eloquent speaker, even just in small one-on-one conversations. Do you have advice for improving and also for increasing your vocabulary? Reading is the way to increase your vocabulary. Definitely. First of all, know that this is a work in progress. You are not expected to go from being nervous or insecure to now all of a sudden you are on a stage, okay? My first public speaking experience was with Ladies Get Paid when I started it in 2016. So I'm very comfortable now, but that is because I have done this over and over and over again. It is a learned skill. Some people are naturally born with presence, but public speaking is a learned skill. You read the room. This is how you do it. This is why you read the Zoom. This is why this experience on YouTube Live is so sort of strange and interesting to me, because I sadly can't see any of your beautiful faces. And by the way, I don't look at myself either. That's very distracting. So ask the other people questions. Get to know them. People love to hear themselves talk. Mimic their body language. It's hard, remote. This is all very strange. This is all, so maybe I should do an office hours that's specific to kind of like remote work and how we do this. But if it's in person, let me tell you a little bit of biology here. Humans, and I think maybe even not just humans, but we imitate each other as a way to feel closer to one another. Meaning, you go like this, right? If you're itching your nose, all of a sudden, I'm itching my nose. You're leaning like this. Now, all of a sudden, I'm leaning like this. Notice that this is guaranteed. Everybody does this. And now you're going to notice it, and it's going to make you laugh. You're going to see other people imitating you. This shows that you are on the same page. You're bonding. So go off of their energy. Okay? Go off of them. And be yourself. Be yourself. Doesn't matter if you're eloquent. Ask questions. Come up with ideas. Again, it does matter if you're eloquent. So maybe practice, write it out. There is no shame in saying, hold on, I'm just gonna, I took some notes. I just want to read it. No shame at all in doing that. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I really, again, I'm honored that you would spend your time with me, especially on a Friday if you were here live. And I don't see the chat, so I'm not going to respond to anybody. But if you were trolls here, good riddance. And I know there's a lot of you here, fabulous men and women who are part of our community. If you are not, ladiesgetpaid.com. We will add you to our Slack group, ladiesgetpaid.com/book. It's fantastic. Again, I know I'm biased, but it is the ultimate guide to breaking barriers, owning your worth, and taking command of your career. Any career questions, this book is going to answer. It is also going to show you how do you make change at your company, right? What are policies that can support all women? And how do we lobby our elected officials to do that too? Because it isn't our fault. It isn't a fault that we have a wage gap, a leadership gap, an investment gap, and a funding gap. But you do need to take the next step. You have to have agency in your life. We can no longer wait, but we also need to work together so that all of us can rise up. I love you all very, very much. Stay safe, stay sane. I'm Claire. Follow me on Ladies Get Paid, and also follow me at Claire Gets Paid. I'll see you on Instagram Live in a few minutes with Cindy Ramirez.